Hi friends, it's Grace and welcome back to another video. My apologies for the long wait between videos. It almost feels like I've forgotten how to do this, but life just got in the way. Things have been really busy and ultimately I didn't have much time, extra time, so I decided to spend that time reading primarily rather than filming, and that way when I did have time to film again, I would actually have something to talk about, because if I hadn't been reading the books, then, well, there's nothing to talk about. So speaking of reading the books, today's video is going to be the May edition of Reading Booktubers' favorite books. And so for this episode, I had Ben from Overly Average Ben recommend me one of his favorites. And for those of you who don't know, Ben is my boyfriend. So naturally I do hear quite a bit about his favorite books, but there was one that he picked that I was not surprised about, that did stick out because I know how much he loved it when he read it, and it kind of has a parallel to a book that I recommended to him that he actually talks about in the clip that he sent me about why he recommended me this book. So before we get into the vlog portion, let's hear from Ben about why he recommended this to me.
Hello, we are here for the justification part of the video, the part where I've been invited to justify the reason for choosing this book. So I think my main reason is this is basically a rebuttal, a reply to Grace's choice when I did a similar style video where she recommended me to read Beartown by Frederick Backman. Grace is a big hockey fan. Beartown is around the sport of hockey and it's to do with the emotional aspect, real world aspects of it, etc. As if hockey isn't real. I don't know what that means, but as a result, I thought, why not use this as a chance to give my version of it, which is a football-related book, Panenka by Ronan Hessian. This is everything that I need in a book, which is that it is set in a fictional place, but it's very clearly the UK/Ireland at the very least. It deals with very stoic characters, older characters, reflecting on their life, reflecting of the issues they've had. And the way the emotion is told throughout this story is super British, and by that I mean it's stoic as all hell. It's just people very quietly getting along with their life, just trying to get through, having these emotional discussions and reflections, putting in very clear and concise ways the way that I think a lot of people in the UK feel. And it emotionally blasted me when I read it. By not being overly emotional in a lot of ways. And that's kind of why I want Grace to read it. It's a nice dialogue between the two books, I think, in terms of both being about sports, but not really about sports. It's about the emotional and deconstructing how people feel about it, how that explains human nature and to the way that we interact with each other. I hope this doesn't fail, because Beartown turned out to be an amazingly big surprise for me. So I'm hoping that I can deliver the same kind of quality, and if not, I mean, what can I say? I've made mistakes before.
So as Ben kind of alludes to, Panenka is a book that is about sports, but it's really not. So the main character, who goes by Panenka as a nickname, is a man of about 50 who has this past that is completely intertwined with the town's football team, and mistakes that he has made and things that weigh on him and make him a little bit of a social outcast because of how entwined his career as a football player with them is so relevant to his place in the landscape of the town and of the people and how they view him and the team and everything. And so we are many years on from that now, except it's following Panenka and his daughter and his grandson and his son-in-law, and it's kind of this relatively small cast of characters. And I think at this point, just with that brief description, I'll get into my vlog part, because I don't think it's overly long this time, or at the very least there's not that many clips, but hopefully then we'll come back together at the end and I'll say a little bit more about how I felt. Today is a very exciting morning because I'm finally getting around to starting one of Ben's favorite books from last year, I think. If it was from 2 years ago, I'm really slacking. I think it might have been last year though. So, of course, we're in the middle of a video now. You know what book this is, but Panenka by Ronan Hessian is one that, you know, has been recommended to me by Ben for a while. He doesn't pressure me the way that I pressure him to read my favorite books, but I know he's been looking forward to this. And so I'm going to get a few pages of this started before I have to go out this morning. And we'll see, this is a short book, but it is literary fiction and based on the style and everything. There's obviously no guarantee on how fast I'm going to be able to read it. So I'll just take it with the vibes, take it how it feels, and update you guys when I feel like there has been any kind of significant progress. Okay, so I'm only 34 pages into this, but because the book is so short, you can see how much of the book that actually is. Probably about a fifth or close to a fifth, a quarter, whatever. So I wanted to do some early impressions, and I'm really enjoying it so far. Of course, I don't read a ton of literary fiction, but I do see the similarities. I know that me and Ben have talked before about how this and Beartown are similar in their kind of like thematic and structural aspects. Like they're both kind of using a sport and the people who have kind of like an emotional connection and like a life connection to that sport in order to tell a story about people, not a story about sports. And so I really like the kind of quiet telling of this story so far. The characters, they have a certain charm to them in this book, and the writing, like it's charming, but it's also understated, and I think that that's very intentional, and I like the style that's being presented here, and I do really enjoy Ronan Hessian's writing so far. Like the use of words and like the crafting of his sentences, they're really nice. And so it's definitely very easy to read. Like I've kind of just sat down on a couple occasions for a few minutes today, and I'm already like a fifth of the way through the book. So I'm gonna try and take this at a reasonable pace. I could read it pretty fast, but I don't know that I want to. I want to think about it and reflect on it. And yeah, I'm enjoying myself so far. Okay, friends, so I was originally kind of trying to go by page count when it came to updating about Panenka, but the thing is, this really is such a short book that I kind of just need to go based on vibes, I think, because I'm already basically halfway through it. And the thing about the last section that I read was that we got the incident, like the thing that happened earlier in Panenka's life that has kind of informed the course of his life and like his emotional journey and his relationships to this point. And I thought that it's been extremely well done. I really like the concise but like very, I don't know, accurate portrait of sports culture that's being painted. And like, I know that I'm not all that familiar with like football culture, not having grown up with it, but the thing is, like, there are definite similarities between that and like hockey culture and the sports that I do watch and am more familiar with. And so like, even though it's not the same, you can definitely understand the like emotions, the high level of like stress and pressure to perform, and that culture with like, you know, coaches and managers and a team's performance, and how that's tied to the emotions of fans and like the expectations and everything like that. And so I've been really enjoying the way that this is portrayed and the kind of like matter-of-fact but understated way that this is being told, and I've thought that it's really, really good so far. So I'm ready to read more of it, and like I said, this is a very quick read, so I have no idea at what point I will update next, but probably before the end of the book. My apologies if you can hear fireworks in the background at any point. It is in fact Victoria Day today, which I forgot about since I worked all weekend until the fireworks started tonight. But I've really been enjoying Panenka. I think I'm about 70% of the way through now, and
This isn't so much an update on like, I don't know, how the book is progressing as it is just kind of a reflection on how I've been liking the approach that Ronan Hessian takes, where even though like in this story, you have people connecting with each other and opening up about their emotions. I feel like first and foremost, it's kind of a way to get into people's heads and see how they like reflect on their own emotions and like the internalization of that, and learning a little bit more about how people, I don't know, kind of sit with their emotions by themselves and how they think and how they feel, and kind of in an individual way, separate from their relationships to others. And it does have a combination of that also with like character, what, I don't know what I'm trying to say, interactions like between characters. I think it's a really nice combination between the two of those. But I just think it's nice how each character has kind of gotten moments to shine and to have the book like kind of sit in their own emotions. We don't only get it from one perspective. I finished Panenka last night right as I was going to sleep, so I figured I would just film my update today. And I'm actually about to film the video for this as well. But I did give this 5 stars. It did make me cry. That was kind of the thing I was waiting for, to see if that was going to happen based on what Ben said about it. And he has a heart of steel, so not actually, but things don't often make him cry, whereas I am a cry baby. So I figured if it cracked him, it would crack me. But I really liked the emotional resolution of this book. You know, it doesn't feel like it was anything groundbreaking, but it's sort of like an understated, less dramatic, like emotional milestone that a lot of these characters hit. And they really went through these like very intimate and personal, small emotional journeys. Like each one of them had that throughout the book. And it is a book that feels melancholy to me, but it's also a book that has hope in a certain way. And I think the hope is more about how these people feel about themselves and where their lives are going, and less so things that are external to them. So yeah, I really liked it, and let's get back to the rest of the video where I will talk more about it. Okay, so I'm not sure if I said this in my final clip or not, but I am giving Panenka like what amounts to 5 stars. I couldn't decide between 4.5 and 5, so if we want to be super pedantic, it's gonna be a 4.75, but like obviously that rounds up on Goodreads and like whatever. So I really enjoyed it. And I'm glad that it was short, because I did feel emotionally heavy while reading it. So this is definitely a book that has a dialogue with Beartown by Frederick Bachman. But Beartown is a lot longer, but I think that they are trying to achieve somewhat similar things, but they're just doing it in very different ways. Like Frederick Bachman undeniably has a very different style from Ronan Hessian, and Ronan Hessian's writing is beautiful, but it's in a very kind of simple way, and it's simple in the sense that he is rather concise about it. Like he uses really nice language, and he does this interesting thing where the characters, they say things that maybe real people wouldn't say, like very profound and philosophical things, but at the same time you do kind of feel like real people would say them, because the characters are communicating this in a very kind of like matter-of-fact way, and it's not like waxing poetic necessarily, but you really feel like these characters are kind of just sharing their emotions with you in the ways that they're feeling them. And it is, it's just beautiful turns of phrase and like very illuminating ways to talk about the emotions, even though, as Ben said in his clip, the whole thing is kind of very stoic and not overly emotional, but the way that these people
are interacting with each other and are living their lives is kind of just imbued with this emotion overall. And so I really liked the way that that was done. And the characters they're good, but they are definitely kind of like the people that the characters are so intertwined with the particular emotional journeys that they're going through in this part of their story that those really are the star of the show. And so I don't really feel as though I can talk about anything aside from how he dealt with emotions in this book, because it is such a short book, and I think that he really achieved what he was trying to do. And so for that reason, I really, really enjoyed it, and I think that he did a perfect job of what he was trying to do. And like I mentioned, I cried at the end, which is always a sign for me of how invested I was in a book, if it manages to make me cry. Now, with that said, it's not super hard to make me cry, but if I don't feel any emotions, that's a surefire sign that I'm not invested, if you know what I mean. So the fact that I did, I was really feeling their emotions throughout the story, and yeah, I was very, very pleased with how this was done, because there are times when I can feel like literary fiction can get a little bit depressing, but I felt that this was purposeful, it was the right length, it had this tone of hope mixed in with some of the sadder reflections that we had. And so yeah, it all came together really well, and I'm happy to say how happy I was with it. So thank you so much, Ben, for finally making me read this, because I was going to read it at some point, but who knows when that would have been. And I'm sure that you're happy that I loved it as well, just as happy as I was when you loved Beartown. And for those of you who might be watching this video, if you've read either one of these books but not the other, may I recommend the other book, whichever one you haven't read. I feel like there's a decent chance that it will appeal to you, and that would be my parting recommendation. So yeah, if you liked this video, please do give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more content from me. I post videos on most Mondays and Thursdays most of the time, even though I've had a bit of a break recently. I have some videos planned, and I'm definitely getting back into it right now. And yeah, as always, I will have my joint Discord with Ben, my socials, and Patreon linked in the description if you're interested in any of that. And I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye!